Hello everyone. In this video we'll be watching how to solve equations with variables on both sides. Now there's very similar to the lessons which we have discussed previously, which we have learned previously. Only thing a bit more extra will be added, but the rules of solving equations remain the same. The most important one, you must remember the inverse operations. Now I'm not going to be reading these again and again, as you all know the inverse operations by now. And also the integer rules, you must follow the integer rules, else you will not be able to solve any kind of equation as well. I'm not going to repeat this again. If you have any doubt, you can watch the previous videos on how we have solved integers, right? So moving on to today's lesson, we have to solve the equation and then check the answer. Now as you can see, this is a very simple equation. So what's the rule? First, you have to move all the variables to one side, and you need to keep the numbers on one side and then solve. The rule is simple. You must use this rule. How, no matter whatever the equation is, the rule goes like, if keep the variables on one side and move the numbers to the other. Also here I'm going to move 4k to the other side. So because it was positive here, it will become a negative. Minus 4k equals 15. So 7 minus 4 will give me a 3k equals 15. Now, am I done with the question? Of course not, because I need to solve for k. So k is going to be equal to 15 divided by 3. That's going to give me a 5. So k is going to be equal to 5. Now, let's check whether the answer we got is correct or not. Now, of course, you need to know both sides of the equation need to balance, means they should be equal. So this side we have 7k, which means 7 multiplied by 5, and the other side we have 4 multiplied by 5 plus 15, because that's the value of k we got. Now 7 fives will give me 35, and 4 fives will give me 20 plus 15. So 20 plus 15 will also give us 35. Now both sides of the equation have the same number, means they are equal, which means k equals to 5 is the correct answer. This is a very simple equation which you need to solve. Now let's move on to another equation. This is also a similar equation. The rule: first, move the variables to one side and keep the numbers on the other. So I'm going to move 4b to the other side, rather than moving 3b and then again moving back 2 to the other side. I'm going to move 4b to the other side. So that will become 3b minus 4b. So in the next step, we are going to subtract 3b from 4b. So 3 minus 4 will give me a negative 1b. Now usually we do not write we do not write 1, because if there is no number, means you need to understand that it's 1. So we don't usually write it, but here I wrote so that it will be clear for you how to do. Okay, now if you have not written the 1, just think it's going to be 2 equals negative b, but you know a variable cannot have a negative sign, so we give the negative sign to the number. So that will become a negative 2 equals b. So b is equal to negative 2. But if you have written 1, of course you have to follow the remaining step. B is going to be equal to 2 divided by negative 1. So 2 divided by negative 1 is going to give you a negative 2, because you're dividing a negative number with a positive one. So your answer is going to be a negative 1 as well. Now let's check the answer. It's going to be 4 multiplied by negative 2, because wherever there is b, you need to replace b with negative 2. So 4 multiplied by negative 2 plus 2, and 3 multiplied by negative 2. So 4 multiplied negative 2 will give you a negative 8 plus 2, and then 3 multiplied by 2 will give you a negative 6. So negative 8 plus 2, negative 8 plus 2 will give you a negative 6, right? Because you're subtracting them, and you will choose the sign which the bigger number has, greater number has. So it's going to be 8 minus 2 is 6, and then the greater number, which is 8, has negative sign, so we include that in the answer as well. So negatives, both sides of the equation have negative 6, which means b equals negative 2 is the correct answer. Okay, let's move to a bit harder, not hard I could say, but one which has more steps. Okay, as you can see now, here we have half b plus 6 in parentheses. So whenever you see parentheses, you know what to do. You need to multiply each term with what's inside the parentheses. right? So here we have half. So we are going to multiply half with b, and then we are going to multiply half with 6 after that. So first let's multiply half with b. Half multiplied by b will give you a half b, right? Because it's just number and a letter. So half b, then half multiplied by 6 will give you 3. Just remember, half of 6 is 3. So half multiplied by 6 will give you a 3 as well. So we have multiplied half with b and half with 6, and then this remains the same as we have nothing to do here. Next step, numbers together, variables together. So let's move the variables together. So half b, I brought the 3 over 2b. Now here it's positive because it's moving to the other side, it became negative. Now numbers, here it's negative 1. It's already on the left right hand side of the equation. This is negative 1. I'm only moving the positive 3 to the other side, so that will become a negative 3. Now before you subtract, make sure the denominators are same, because only if the denominators are same we can simply subtract them. Here, so denominator is going to be 2, however it is. So 1 minus 3. 1 minus 3, integer rules. So 1 minus 3 will give you a minus 2. So minus 2 over 2, b equals negative 1, negative 3. Both of them are negatives. So we add the numbers. So 1 plus 3 is 4, but we keep the negative sign. Okay, now can we still simplify this? Yes, we can. Negative 2 divided by 2 will give us a negative 1b. So negative 1b, we usually say it as negative b equals negative 4. Now if you stop here, negative without writing the 1, it's going to be negative b equals negative 4. You can cancel the negative signs, so you'll be left with b equals 4. But if you prefer to write negative 1 with the b, then you have to further do one step. You have to divide each side, the side you have to divide it with negative 1. So even then your answer is going to be 4. So it's always better you don't write the 1. It's highly recommended that you don't write the 1. Okay, so if you don't write the 1, you'll be left with minus b equals minus 4. Both sides of the equations have minus, so we can simply cancel them and say b is equal to 4. But if you write 1, you have to go one first step further and divide it, because you have to get rid of the 1, right? So we have to divide it. Still, you will be left with the answer b equals 4. Okay, let's check it now. Now you might think checking for this question is difficult. No, it's not. Let's replace b with 4 and check. So here is the equation. So this is going to be half multiplied by 4 plus 6, and half 3 over 2 multiplied by 4 minus 1. So half 4 plus 6. Okay, now you can do two things here. Either you solve the parenthesis, that's 4 plus 6 is 10, and then half of 10 is 5, or you multiply half of 4, then half of 6, and then you add them. However you do, answer you are getting will be the same. I prefer doing the parenthesis first, so 4 plus 6 is 10, half of 10 is 5. Simple as that. But to show you, I just had to do this. Half of 4 is 2, and half multiplied by 6 is 3. Half multiplied means half of 4, that's all. So 2 plus 3 is 5. And here 3 over 2 multiplied by 4, which means 3 over 4 multiplied by 3, 4 will give you 12, and you know the denominator will be 1, so 2 ones are 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6, minus 1 will give us 5, so both sides of the equations have 5, so that means b equals to 4 is the correct answer, right? Okay, let's move on. Now this is another kind of question you'll be getting. As you can see, this is 3x plus 15 minus 9 equals 2 multiplied by x plus 2. Okay, now for this equation, you need to do two things. The first thing, solve the parentheses. You have to, of course, solve the parentheses first, and then you have one more thing to do. Now, all these questions which we have been learning before, as we can see, we have only two terms on each side. Okay, let me show you. See, we have only like hardly we have two terms, 1 2 on this side and then 1 on this side. Even in the previous ones it's the same, but in this question we are having 1, 2, 3 terms, 1, and then when we multiply, we'll get 2. So it's always better you minimize your terms, you solve your terms so that it'll be easy for us to calculate. So what do I mean by that? What I'm telling you is, in this part, you can solve some numbers. Which numbers do you think we can solve? We cannot add 3x with 15. No way, because it's a variable and there's a number. But we can do 15 minus 9, right? 15 minus 9 will give us a 6. So this is what I meant. Try to solve. If it's a longer expression, try to make it small by solving the numbers. Okay, then multiply this. That's the second step. So let's see. So first 2 multiply x will give you 2x. 2 multiplied by 2 will give you a 4. So here I have already subtracted this. 15 minus 9 is 6. Then 2x plus 4. Okay, now we are going to simplify this. So how do you solve this? Move the variables and move the numbers in this to the same, where they belong. So 3x minus 2x equals 4 minus 6. I don't need to be saying now how the signs have changed and all that. So you have to understand by that now, by the time they're changing the side, the sign changes as well. Now this is only for addition and subtraction. The sign changes only for adding and subtracting. Okay, so 3 minus 2 gives you 1x. As I told you, don't write 1. It's always preferable to write x only. Then 4 minus 6 will give you a negative 2. So your answer is x equals negative 2. It's a very easy concept, only that you need a bit of practice. If you practice well, you will definitely understand it. So these are the different, a bit different kind of questions you might get to solve in this particular lesson. So let's move on and check some of the questions. As you can see, practice makes you perfect. Always, any kind of practice will make you perfect. So let's move ahead and practice a bit more questions so that your understanding of the lesson will be as what do you say, as clear as a crystal. This is English, okay? So your understanding will be very clear. Okay, now let me start with this question here. 2c minus 5 equals c minus c plus 4. So how am I going to solve these equations? All what I need to be doing is move the variables to one side and keep the letters on the other side. Okay, so for this I am going to, so I leave the 2c there, 2c, and then this c I will move to the other side. So as a result, what happens is it becomes a negative c equals 4 plus 5. So that means 2. Here you know it's a 1. So 2 minus 1 will give us a 1. But I'm not going to write 1c. I will only write c equals 9. Okay, now if you want to check, this is only and only if you want to check, you can check by writing the equation, that is 2c minus 5 equals c plus 4. So what's the answer we got for c? The answer we got for c was 9. So that's going to be 2 multiplied by 9 minus 5. And on this side, that's going to be 9 plus 4. So 2 nines are 18, minus 5 will give us 13. 9 plus 4 will give us 13. So both sides of the equation have 13, which means c is equal to 9 is right. Let's quickly move to question number 3. So this is as again, we are going to move the variables to one side and keep the numbers on the other. So 8r minus 2r. Okay. There's something goes wrong. Okay, I don't know, something had gone wrong. So let's solve this quickly. If you have a pen and a pencil, it's always better you solve it before I do, so that you can check your answers. So this is going to be 8r minus 2r equals 10 minus 4. So that's going to give you a 6r equals 6, which means r is going to be 6 over 6, which means r is going to be equal to 1. So we can check this orally too. In place of r, just replace r with 1. So that will be 8 ones are 8 plus 4 is 12. So this side should be 12. Let's check this side. 10 plus 2 multiplied by 1 because r is 1. So 2 multiplied 1 is 2. 2 plus 10 is going to give you a 12, which means r is equal to 1 is also correct. Not necessarily always you need to use paper and book to, pen to solve these. You can do them mentally too. Okay, now let's move to this question. This is 2x minus x because this is plus here. So when it moves to the other side, it becomes minus. 11 minus 1 will become plus 1. So 2 minus x will give you an x, 1x, but we don't write the x. So this is going to give us x is equal to 12. Let's quickly check it. 2 multiplied 12 will give you 24. 24 minus 1 will give you 23. Now 12 here plus 11. How much is 12 plus 11? 23, which means your answer is correct. So you don't need to do one by one for checking. You can just do it mentally. Fine. Let's move to this question. 28 minus 0.3y equals 0.7y minus 12. The first thing first, arrange the variables on one side and the numbers on the other. So we have 0.7y plus 0.3y. And you know now why it became plus, because it's minus on the other side. Okay, so 28 plus 12 will give you a 40. 0 plus 7 plus 0.3. Now these are decimals. You need to be very careful when you are adding them. So line the decimals straight. 7 plus 3 is 10. So you carry 1 and decimal, decimal, decimal. So it's going to be a 1.0. 1.0 means it is a 1. We don't usually call it 1.0. It's 1. So here it's going to be 1y. Now should I be writing 1y? If I write 1y, I have to further do the step of y is equal to 4 divided by 1. So I'm not going to write 1y. I will only say it as y so that I can just stop the question here and say y is equal to 40. This is going to be your answer. Okay, next question. So here we have parentheses. So when you have parentheses, you know now what to do. You have solved enough questions like this. So you will have like this. You have to multiply negative 2 with what's in each term, which is inside the parentheses. So negative 2 multiplied by x will give you a negative 2x. Negative 2 multiplied by positive 3 will give you a negative 6. These are the rules of integers. So 4x minus 3. Arrange them. Minus 2x minus 4x equals minus 3 plus 6. That's going to give you a negative 6x because negative 2, negative 4 will give you negative 6x equals negative 3 plus 6 will give you a 3, right? Now, are we done with the question? No, we need to remove this negative 6 from x. So x is going to be equal to 3 over negative 6. Now, can we divide 3 by 6? Of course, we can divide. So what you're going to do, if you cannot divide, check if you can simplify this. So we can simplify this fraction with a 3. So 3 divided by 3 will give me a 1. 6 divided by 3 will give me a 2. Now, because this is negative, so your answer needs to be a negative 1 as well. So your answer for this question is going to be x is equal to negative half. Let's quickly solve this question. Now, as I said, always better, see this is a bit longer. This has 1, 2, 3 terms, and here also it has 3 terms. So better make it a bit smaller. So how do you make it smaller? This side, what are the two variables which we can solve? Which are the like variables, the same variables or same numbers which we can solve? We have 3c, 4c, 1. So only these two are same, right? So let's solve this. 3 minus 4 will give me minus 1c, right? So I write it as minus c. I don't write it as minus 1c plus 1. Now, which numbers am I going to solve on this side? Which numbers or variables? I have 5c, 2, and 3. So which one can I solve? I'm only going to solve this one. So 2 plus 3 will give me 5. So that's going to be 5c plus 5. Keep in mind, I'm not changing the signs. Why? Because I'm just adding them in the same side. I did not move them anywhere. Only if we move, then the signs change. Okay, so this is going to be, now we can change the sign. So this is going to be negative c, negative 5c equals 5 minus 1. So negative minus 1 minus 5 will give me a minus 6 because it's 1 here. So minus 1 minus 5 will give me a minus 6. And then 5 minus 1 will give me a 4. So again, we need to get rid of the 6, which is with C. So that's going to be 4 divided by negative 6. Now, as you can see, again, it's the same case. We cannot divide these two. So, but we have to check that if we can simplify. So simplify that with 2. That will give you 2 over 3. Are we done? No, you should not forget the negative sign as you are dividing it with a negative 6. So your answer should be having a negative sign as well. They're easy questions, only that you need a bit more practice and time. Once you start practicing, as I have told you, always practice at least 5 questions, extra questions in a day. You will understand the lesson better. Okay. Now this one again, whenever you have parentheses, always remember the first thing you have to do is multiply each term with what the number outside the parentheses. So I leave 5 like that because I'm not going to do anything with the 5. So 3 multiplied by q will give me a 3q. Then 3 multiplied by negative 4 will give me a negative 12 equals 2q plus 2. All right. Now, what's the next thing? As you can see, there are 3 terms here. So let's reduce it. To reduce it, which number am I going to solve? I can do 5 minus 12, right? So let me arrange it properly. I'm only arranging this so that you will understand it better. Other than that, if you can do it mentally, please go ahead and do it. So we have 5 minus 12 plus 3q equals 2q plus 2. Now again, you might be wondering, why did the 12 not change? Why did the 12 not become positive? It did not become positive because we did not move it to the other side of the equal sign. It's on the same side. Only I'm arranging it so that it will be easy for us to solve. That's all. So 5 minus 12 will give me negative 7 plus 3q equals 2q plus 2. Now this is the equation we are going to solve. So what's the rule? Keep the variables on one side and move the numbers to the other one. 2q minus 2q. So negative 7 So negative 7, negative 2 will give me a negative 9. Then 2 minus 3 will give me a negative 1. So I'm not writing negative 1. I will just say it's a negative q. Now both sides of the equations have negative sign. So you can simply cancel them and say q is equal to 9. So this is the way you have to do when you have parentheses as well. Okay, let's see one more question which is of a different kind. Okay, this question is not different, it's similar, but a bit more steps are needed. Now you can see 5 minus in parenthesis t plus 3. Now there is no number here, okay, which means it is going to be a 1. Whenever there is number means there is going to be a 1. Minus 1 plus 2 t minus 3. So you need to multiply each term which is inside the parenthesis by what's outside. Okay, now 5 we are not going to multiply with anything, so we keep the 5 the same. Now minus 1 multiplied by t. So minus, because the negative sign belongs to the number in front of it. So negative 1 multiplied by t will give me a negative 1t. Again, I'm not writing the negative 1, I'm only writing negative t. Then next, negative 1 multiplied by positive 3. So if you multiply a negative and a positive number, what do you get? You get a negative number. So 1 3 will give you a 3. Negative 1 multiplied by, and let me write it down here in case if anyone has a problem. Negative 1 multiplied by t will give you a negative t. Then negative 1 multiplied by 3 will give you a negative 3. Okay. Then equals negative 1. Then now I'm going to multiply this. 2 multiplied by t. So there's the other part here. 2 multiplied by t will give me a 2t. So 2t, 2t, 2t. Sounds like that, right? 2t. Okay. Then the next one is 2 multiplied by negative 3. That will give you negative 6. So here it's going to be negative 6. Now again, how many terms do we have on each side? We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we are going to solve them. Which numbers are we going to solve? Can I do 5 minus 3? Of course not. They both are not the same. There's a number, there's a variable. How can I solve it? So can I do 5 minus 3? Yes, I can. So let me rewrite it properly. 5 minus 3 minus t equals, which ones are we going to solve here? Can I solve this 2 minus 1 plus 2t? No, how can I? It's a variable, it's a number. So I'm only going to solve negative 1, negative 6 plus 2t. Now, as I have already told before, we are not changing the signs of this because they're on the same side. We are not changing the side of the equation. So 5 minus 3 will give me a 2 minus t, and minus 1 minus 6 will give you a minus 7 plus 2t. Okay, now let's solve. Now this is the time you have to solve because you have 2 on each side. So move the variable to one side and keep the numbers on the other. So that's going to give you 2 plus 7 is 9, which is going to be equal to 2 plus t is 3t. Are we done with the question? Of course not. We have to remove the t and number, which is a t. So td equals 9 divided by 3. So t is going to be equal to 3. So this is your answer. So hopefully after so many questions, doing an explanation, hopefully you would have understood the lesson much more better and much more easily. So hopefully we'll meet in another video. But until then, keep practicing these questions. Get some more extra questions from the internet. Start doing them. Challenge yourself that you can do. Give it to anyone in your house and challenge them to do the question. If you have any friends, as I've always told before, just share this video. Tell them that our teacher is teaching like this so they can also benefit from these videos, right? A small help will do a big help for someone. So keep practicing, keep learning math until we meet again.